It should come as no surprise that the BBC's Question Time devoted a 15-minute segment of its most recent programme to the debate on disability and sickness benefits and the plan to remove more than 1 million people from those benefits and put them into work. The big question, of course, is where are those jobs coming from? Because employers in the UK are cutting jobs in response to the Labour government's economic package announced by Rachel Reeves last year. It's just amazing that nobody seems to want to actually talk about this issue. Where are the jobs coming from? Here's Helen Whately.
And I don't for a moment question the reality, for instance, of things like the difficulties of anxiety that we know people are coming forward for sickness benefits for. But we also know that the evidence tells us many people with those kind of conditions, with support, can be better off in work. And the system in the last few years hasn't been achieving that. What we needed from the government, because they're now in the driving seat, is to really tackle that. And we didn't see it this last week.
Well, of course people are anxious. Wouldn't you be anxious too if the government was trying to get you off of an already precarious benefits system into a job that you probably can't do and that probably doesn't even exist?
Every single day in this country, every day, 2,000 people are put on to long-term sickness benefit, and the chances of ever coming off it are depressingly low.
Fraser Nelson there seems to be inflating the figures, for what purpose I do not know, but it isn't true that 2,000 people are added to disability benefits daily in the UK. According to Department for Work and Pensions data, PIP claimants rose by 117,000 over a quarter, which averages to about 1,300 new claims per day. I mean, that's still a lot, but there's no need to inflate the amount in order to scaremonger.
Quite often when you get given your welfare check, your sickness benefit check, that's the last time you hear from anyone else in officialdom.
Oh no, now I have to agree with Fraser Nelson, because I know it's anecdotal, but I was speaking to somebody, a friend of mine, recently. He was put onto benefits and has not heard from anybody in the system since. So it seems that this is actually correct. What a shame.
In the last 5 years of the Conservative government, there were 1 million people moving on to sickness benefit. Now, I once asked a bunch of economists if those 1 million people were in the economy instead, how would that look like? And the answer was that by the end of the Parliament, there'd be £30 billion more in tax revenue, £10 billion less in welfare payments, so that 40 billion is easily as much as Keir Starmer needs for defence or tax cuts.
Okay, this is another claim that's not supported by available data. The amount of money that could be saved from benefits and taken in tax would depend on various factors, such as the types of jobs secured, wages earned, and the level of support required for individuals transitioning into work.
Now, the government's plans amount to penny pinching. I don't think this is welfare reform.
I'm depressed again because I have to agree with Fraser Nelson on this. The government's plans do amount to penny pinching. They've always been about penny pinching rather than welfare reform. There is no interest in actually helping people into work because the jobs aren't there. Instead, this is all about saving money in order to fund other things like the war effort in Ukraine, I think, personally.
So previous benefit cuts to disability have been linked to over 500 deaths?
Many more than 500 deaths. We're talking hundreds of thousands at the very least.
Some of this suicides, people starving. So how confident is the panel that this isn't going to happen again?
And can I ask you, do you think the size of the welfare bill needs to be reduced at all, or are you happy to see it grow because you think this is the money that people need?
I think we need to look at, there certainly needs to be looked at, but you've got to look at who is being affected, the most vulnerable people. It feels to me this government, and I was a Labour voter, I'm not going to be anymore, because it seems that you're actually betraying the people that are voting for you, the ordinary people that need your help.
And this is the mood in the country at the moment. The Labour Party, of all people, are kicking down at the most vulnerable people in the country when there is a much more viable alternative that the lady is about to outline.
There are other ways. Why don't we start taxing more the rich? The wealthy people that can afford it. You're taking money from people that just don't have anything.
And now listen to Steve Reid, the Labour Party representative on this panel, completely avoiding the point that that lady has just made.
Look, we've got 1 in 10 adults of working age in this country who are on health or disability benefits. 1 in 10. And most damaging of all, 1 in 8 young people, that's 1 million young people in total, 1 in 8 young people are on benefits. They're not earning or in training or learning, and yet we know that if a young person doesn't get into employment or training by the time they're in their early 20s, they may never work in their entire life. We can give better support for those who can't work if we can get those who can work into work.
What work?
The missing part of the argument is the human aspect of this. You're very big on the money, you're very big in the savings, you're not so big on the actual people.
Okay.
And that's where Labour of all parties should
But
be.
it's all about
Well-
people. It's all about giving people the
Okay.
chance to live a life
What
of
you're
work
actually
hang on.
doing is
dignity.
you're achieving frightening people. I mean, I'm hearing from disabled people from my constituents, for instance, as well as disability groups, saying how frightened they are about what you're doing, yet you're also not actually making the scale of savings that the country needs and getting enough people who are going to be off benefits and
think
into work
supporting
who
people
can
who
work.
want
And
to
I say
work
to
to get
the lady
work is
over here,
frightening them,
I
Helen.
completely understand that there are people who really want to work, but because of their disabilities, actually it's incredibly hard and it's not something they can do at the moment. What they want is to find a way to do it. That's what the government needs to be doing, and I
Okay.
just didn't hear it from you this week.
All right.
It's a big issue, the elephant in the room, if you like. The simple fact that there are no jobs for these people to go to, and yet they will be pushed off of benefit. I think there is a solution. It's not a particularly nice solution, but it might answer some of the xenophobes out there, which is the fact that a lot of people come to the UK from abroad in order to fill jobs that people here can't do. So presumably, I mean, it seems like a no-brainer to me, if there is a problem with these people coming here, as far as many people are concerned, then get people who already live here to do those jobs. Now, some people, certainly people with disabilities, would not be able to do physical work, but that doesn't mean that they can't do any of the work that is available or is likely to be available if people aren't brought over from abroad. But that means that the government would have to invest in vocational training to get more British workers into high demand roles. This is possible, and indeed they've put forward £1 billion towards getting people into work. So, you know, why not put it into these issues? Another question is, does the UK government actually know what jobs are being filled by migrants and are therefore needed in the UK? And the answer is yes. The UK government tracks the jobs filled by migrants primarily through the shortage occupation list and visa sponsorship data. These tools help determine which roles genuinely require migrant workers due to domestic labour shortages. With the government wanting to cut sickness and disability benefit take-up, it could ask people on those benefits to train in those jobs that they might be able to do, logically not physical labour for those with physical disabilities, and train them. This could help reduce migration while also cutting benefit dependency. There are challenges to making it work effectively, so it could be done by tailored job matching. You assess people on benefits to see what jobs they can do based on their health conditions. You offer desk-based, remote or flexible roles to those with physical disabilities. You identify roles that suit people with mental health conditions, for example predictable hours, lower stress environments. Then you provide free training programs for in-demand jobs that match people's abilities. You offer part-time training options for those with fluctuating health conditions. You include workplace adjustments, ergonomic setups, assistive technology to support disabled employees. I've actually seen this at the job centre, so if the DWP can do it, anybody can. And you give incentives for employers and workers. You encourage businesses to hire from this talent pool with wage subsidies or tax breaks. You allow people to work part-time without losing all benefits, preventing a benefits cliff. And you provide in-work support such as mental health resources or disability accommodations. There are challenges and concerns. Some people on benefits have conditions that make regular work difficult even in non-physical roles. Some businesses might be hesitant to hire workers with complex needs. Some jobs require accommodations that not all employers are willing to provide. And training takes time. And it might not immediately reduce migration. And it might not immediately increase employment. But the bottom line is it could work if it's done properly, with proper training, employer incentives and flexible work models. But it shouldn't be a blunt policy forcing people into unsuitable jobs. Instead, it should be a voluntary, well-supported transition for those who can work in some capacity. And there's the rub, because Labour is trying to push people off of benefit involuntarily into some kind of work that they probably can't do. There is hope in the way that the government says it is going to provide help, but I do question the kind of help that is likely to be on offer. So this is something that would have to be watched all the time, and we would have to make sure that the government actually does what it is saying it's doing, rather than just putting forward, talking a good fight and actually achieving nothing at all. That's all I've got for you for now. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this, please like, comment and subscribe. As always with the welfare benefits, I am especially interested in reading your comments, so please bring them forward. Bye for now.